continuing story of Peyton Place. Starring Ed Nelson as Michael Rossi, Ryan O'Neal as Rodney Harrington, Barbara Parkins as Betty Anderson, Christopher Connolly as Norman Harrington, Patricia Morrow as Rita Harrington, James Douglas as Stephen Cord, Elizabeth Walker as Carolyn Russell, and also starring Barbara Rush as Marcia Russell.
At this hour of the night, at this time of the winter, the bus ride from Boston to Peyton Place takes slightly more than 2 hours. Time enough for Carolyn Russell to make a decision. A decision which will change the course of her life and touch the lives of all those close to her. The first person to be informed of this decision, to be given the chance to share her determination, is not her mother, Marcia. It is a close friend of Carolyn's age, an absolutely critical factor in Carolyn's point of view.
I'm sorry. Shh, I don't want to wake them again. My phone call. I just said it was one of my friends. One of your rude, inconsiderate friends. Yeah, they don't think I have any other kind. Will they mind finding me here in the morning? Nah, don't worry about it. What were you doing on the bus from Boston? Thinking. A lot. All I could think of when you called was that maybe you were there to see a doctor. And practically got one in the family? What are you saying? Patricia and Cheney. Well, the way Jeff's been avoiding you. You think he ought to have a reason? Jeff doesn't need reasons. He gets bored very quickly. Glad I was wrong. No, that's the last thing I would have needed. I went to visit my father. How come he didn't stay over? His girlfriend was there. Was it that Donna? No. I know it doesn't matter. Sounds like this. Your father's turning into a real swinger. He's single. It's just kind of wild to think of him playing the field. Why? Well, as if he were Jeff's age. My mother's acting as though she's mine. What's the difference? I pose the only problem. You see, if you look at it from her point of view, how can you be young and desirable when you have a daughter who's almost of voting age? Next year, if they lower the age. That's unlikely. Do you know why? If they admit that we're adult, they have to admit that they're middle-aged. They'll never stand for that. I can imagine my father describing me as about 8 years old, and then I arrive on his doorstep. Surprise. Here I am. Thanks. Did the girl answer the door? No. My father did. He was still tying his silk bathrobe. You should have seen the old flannel thing he wore at home. And you thought he'd gone to bed early. I really did. If he'd only said something about having company there instead of standing on one foot and then the other, acting embarrassed. I finally opened the bedroom door myself and saw her. What was she like? She was like someone's secretary. Someone's very beautiful secretary. Did he introduce you to her? No. I wish he had. It would have been a lot better for everyone, I think. What's wrong with parents? Why can't they ever be straightforward about anything? They have to keep up appearances. How else are they going to convince us to follow in their footsteps? I'm going to be very cool. No tantrums. No emotion. I'm going to finish high school. I'm going to be the picture of good manners and wholesome thinking. I'm going to say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, certainly, ma'am. You're absolutely right. And when I see my father every other weekend, he's going to be so proud of his sweet and considerate young daughter. I've try that. It'll work for me, you see. Because I can detach myself. They'll never be able to reach me. And I'll be safe and secure. Let them be frightened and panicky. It's quite a switch. It's quite a switch.
Hello?
Marcia, Fred. I want to make sure Carolyn's all right. The mood she was in when she stormed out of my apartment last night.
Carolyn was in Boston?
She didn't say anything?
No. No, this is the first I've heard. What happened?
We had a little misunderstanding.
What about?
Nothing. We had a little argument. Would you put her on the phone? I'd like to patch things up.
You'll have to reach her at the Cheneys. She spent the night there.
She never came home?
No. What happened, Fred? Were you too busy? Were you entertaining a lady friend? Come to think of it, that's the only thing I can think of that would make Carolyn run out on her precious daddy, especially when she ran to you for comfort.
Marcia?
Daddy can handle anything. Except unannounced evening visits.
Aren't you kind of jumping to conclusions?
Am I, Fred? Tell me I'm wrong. And you were the one. You were the one who had the nerve to complain about my relationship with Mike Rossi. You were even going to take Carolyn away from me, remember? The court was going to let her make a choice. And what was it you said? Who do you think she'd choose, you or me? Well, who do you think she'd choose, Fred?
Carolyn could never stay mad at me for long.
Oh, no, Fred. This isn't like when she was 8 and you forgot to buy her a jump rope. She's lost respect for us. What we say matters less and less, and soon it won't matter at all. And unless one of us can find some way to reach that child, I think we both lost her. Goodbye, Fred.
Oh, come in, come in.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Now, would you mind explaining? I mean, most patients don't demand things from their doctors unless they're in some kind of a severe pain.
I'm ready to go home.
Oh, well, very interesting. Harry?
Don't look at me.
It wasn't my idea either.
It was my idea.
Oh, nice.
Oh, in that case, Mike, don't think there's any more need of our services. Dr. Harrington's going to take over his own case.
Please, Dr. Miles, let me explain.
Please do. Harry and I are always willing to listen to a colleague.
Let me just show you something. Then I'll go through the proper channels or ask permission or whatever the protocol is.
Show. All right.
Go ahead. Now, I realize that I'll never be an Olympic walking champion, but look, I get along pretty good in this, huh?
Pretty good.
Yes, pretty good, and that's exactly why you should stay here and continue making progress.
Listen, I'm not talking about giving up therapy. Tell him, Chuck, will you?
Like I said before, it's not my idea. But Rod says he'll work harder than ever. But what about the apparatus? Everything he needs is here in the hospital.
No problem.
Right. Look, I'll pick him up at his house every morning, bring him to the hospital, and I'll see to it that he gets as much treatment as he's been getting.
More, pile it on. I'll do anything you ask.
Well, sounds a little premature to me.
Listen, Doctor, I've been cooped up here for months. I get to see Betty an hour or so a day. I should think the psychological lift alone would be enough to convince you. Not to mention what the improved diet will do for me.
Funny how they always get around to the food.
Well, I don't know. If I was sure you wouldn't gold break.
Nobody wants to walk any more than I do.
What do you think, Harry?
Oh, I guess we can give it a try.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Oh, I can't tell you how choked up I'm going to get saying goodbye to this terrific room. You checking out?
Harvey. Oh, Norman, isn't it great Rod's coming home?
Yeah.
I thought I'd take a few of these things with me. If Rod wants me to continue with the bookkeeping, I can do it at the house.
I don't think you want to keep a couple raunchy books. Not now.
No, I don't mind, as long as it doesn't interfere with my taking care of Rod.
I don't know. I don't think it's the kind of thing for an heiress to do.
Now, listen, Norman. The only thing I'm really interested in doing is looking after Rod. Now, he's very excited about coming home, and so am I, so I'm not going to let anything spoil it.
I'll drink to that.
Norman, this heiress business. Now, you really don't think I've changed that much since your grandfather died, do you?
You're richer.
Well, not yet. Norman, is that what's bothering you? I mean, do you really resent the fact that we're coming into that money?
Heck no. I didn't want any part of it before Grandfather died, and I don't want any part of it now.
Well, you weren't too proud to accept $50,000. I mean, you financed the bike shop with it.
That was little stuff. Big money changes people. Aren't you aware of that?
It doesn't have to.
Ah, but it does.
If you want it. But this heiress will still keep the books if Rod wants me to. Norman. Thank you for hanging the painting for me.
You're welcome.
I know you were really angry about that the other night, but I'm glad you've changed your mind.
I haven't.
You really are hostile about it, aren't you?
I thought the word was obliging.
Well, I guess you have your reasons.
You wanted a picture hung? All right, I hung it.
You still think that's going to cause trouble, don't you?
There's no sense in kidding around about it. You know how I feel about it.
Norman, you are wrong. You are 100% wrong. And I'm sorry you feel the way you do about it, but I think I know my husband pretty well. And besides, it's a portrait of me. Now, how can that possibly offend my husband?
Oh, come on, Betty. Every time Rod looks at that picture, it's going to bring Stephen right into your home. All right? If you're so anxious to break up your marriage, you can count on me to help. If you have any more pictures or knickknacks from your former marriage you like draped around the house, just let me know.